And hello, everybody. Welcome to the Weekday Warriors of Wrestling for Tuesday, December 7th, 2021. We're recording this then, but you'll probably hear this on Wednesday, December 8th. It's Wednesday morning, and you know what that means. There's a Weekday Warriors of Wrestling episode back up. So it's been a while. It's been way since before Full Gear. Last time we discussed there was a different AEW champion. Now we got the Hangman. We are going right into Full Gear, and by Full Gear I mean winter is coming, which is interesting because that they're keeping it where it is, because I figured they may do this as one of their like TNT specials.
Yeah, I mean, this has become kind of an annual event for them. Sting debuted, Omega won the title at the last one, and now it kind of feels like this show is a big deal. And if they're going to be doing these TNT specials, this might be a good one to have as a regular occurring one.
Yeah, because I worry about the TNT special because it's only 1 hour, and it's like it's an hour on Saturday nights, and it's just like, oh man, that like it just, I don't know, it doesn't feel big with that. And I'm the guy who's always complaining about, oh, there's not enough, there's too many hours on this wrestling show. Like Full Gear was great, but it was way too fucking long, which I say about a lot of their stuff. Like they need to shorten that by an hour, like end at like 10:30.
And they could have too, if you look at some of those matches, like the Jericho, the Inner Circle match did not need to be as long as it was. And they also, like, and tell me if you feel this way too, they also like don't let things linger after somebody wins a big match too often. I mean, Hangman got his big celebration, but generally it just kind of feels like, all right, this match is over, moving on to the next one. That's going to be half an hour long. And it's like, yeah, you can take your time and linger a little bit.
Yeah, no, if I have to give a critique about AEW, it's that they're fucking obsessed with the size of their matches. If we're talking about men in Corvettes having like a small penis complex and things like that, AEW is obsessed with having long matches. They're like, this is the way to get great matches. I mean, like, holy shit, on that card, 1, 2, 3, 4. There's 4 that were actually over 20, and 6 if you give a minute and a half to the tag team match and the Inner Circle match. So it's like, really, did fucking Christian Cage and Jurassic Express against the Super Click need to get 22 minutes? Like, I understand Hangman and Kenny getting it, but like, it's just like, it's okay. You can do a 5-minute match every once in a while. It doesn't have to be like this. And they love doing that. I love AEW, but the brain trust in that company thinks that's the only type of good match there is.
Yeah, well, they kind of disproved themselves, because Punk versus Kingston on that same card was arguably the match.
I would agree.
Arguably the match of the night, and I believe, if I'm not mistaken, it was also the shortest match on the card.
It was, yes.
Yeah, so there you go. They were able to go in there and almost steal the show with what, 10, 11 minutes.
Yeah.
So
we talk about those things. We talk about we talk about Goldberg and Lesnar. I mean,
that's probably my favorite WrestleMania match of the 30s.
I mean, over the Daniel Bryan stuff.
That's the only other one I would put up there with it, but it's down to either Goldberg Lesnar or the Daniel Bryan matches from 30. But other than that, it's like, what else is there,
Yeah, I mean, the Rousey Angle and Triple H one was pretty good, but yeah. No, I hear it. I like I like the Seth Rollins Brock Lesnar match from what was it, the New
35?
York one.
35?
I don't know. Ever since they stopped putting the things, I'm like, I just say, oh, it was Statue of Liberty headdress. That was the one. But that was another like sub 5-minute one.
Oh yeah, that one was really quick too, but it got the show started hot, so it worked.
So yeah, no, it's just like, I mean, I don't want to like argue against myself here, because so many people will be like, oh, well, you should always like want to have great matches. Like, yeah, I agree, but but like, it's also about what happens in those matches. And like, and once, and I'm not saying like put a bunch of fucking gaga all the time, but like, Hogan and Andre on the main event, when with the referee switch, like people were talking about that shit for like weeks after, because of like that's a terrible example, because like, oh, it's a screwy finish. You don't want to do a ton of those, but like, it's like how many fucking like mid I don't want to say mid card, because it's how many non-main event 20-minute matches are like, oh, I'm going to talk like not many out of all of them that happen. Like, I love AEW, but like how many times do they have these great matches that you're like, yeah, but then they're eclipsed by another match later on. Like, yes, we're going to talk about the Young Bucks versus the Lucha Brothers in a tag team match. Yes, but we're like probably not going to talk about Christian Cage and the Jurassic Express against the Super Click. Nothing against that match, but like, it doesn't fucking need to be a barn burner. Now, that said, I mean, from a business standpoint, maybe that's what AEW's audience wants completely, and maybe I'm in the minority for that, and that's fine. And I don't own a wrestling company that has a multi-million-dollar TV deal, so maybe that is the way to do it. But to me, I would pace it a little more, because I'm a fucking diehard AEW fan, and if my eyes are like closing down when I get to Hangman and Kenny, which is like the fucking match I've been waiting 2 years for, maybe you should shorten your shows a little bit.
And again, it's easy to do. Like, it's just, spend your time on other things and shorten the matches that don't need to be that long.
Yeah. I mean, like, I'm looking at this card right now and I see, okay, MJF and Darby Allin, great match. And I'm fine with that being near 20 minutes. It's at 22 minutes, cut 3 minutes out of it, give it like 19 minutes. That's fine. You save 2 minutes there. Lucha Brothers versus FTR. Fuck that. 18 minutes. Give me 9 minutes of that. So I've cut 9 minutes off that. So we've got 11 minutes back right now. Miro and Bryan Danielson. That does not need to be 20 minutes long. Like, that match was good. Yes, I get it. But like, just have a hard hitting, get your stuff in like 10 minutes. So give me 9 minutes on that. I saved 11 minutes. We're at 22 minutes. We're almost at a half hour now. Fucking 6-man Falls Count Anywhere match. They got to do some spots and they got to move around. I'll give them 15 minutes. So 7 minutes. So we're at a half hour right now. Cody and Malachi versus Cody and Pac versus Malachi and Andrade. That's at 16. I'll take that to 11. Britt Baker and Ty Conti, that's at 15. Take it to 12. CM Punk, Eddie Kingston is fine at 11. Inner Circle against American Top Team, go to 11, and keep Hangman as it is. You saved like 45 minutes to an hour on your show right there. And like, nobody's going to be like, man, I fucking hated these matches. Just do your stuff in that time period, or fucking save it for next time. I don't know.
Yeah, and I'm thinking back to when I was a kid and I used to watch these pay-per-views. Do you remember like some of the older shows that WWE would do? They would have like,
go ahead.
I'm going to say like early 90s, late 80s, early 90s. Like, they would have the show, and then like somewhere in the middle, they would have like kind of an unofficial intermission, meaning that would be where they would have a bunch of reaction promos to the matches that happened earlier. At SummerSlam 91, I remember like midway through the show, they just did a bunch of promos of all the winners and losers. And that was kind of an intermission to kind of give you a break from the action, while also keeping the stories going, because you're getting all the reactions from the wrestlers and everything. So if you go to the bathroom, you're not missing anything. If you don't go to the bathroom, you're seeing some cool promos by the stars. So it's like, it's a win-win either way.
Yeah. And it's kind of like how, like in Saturday Night's Main Event, they'd have like the first match, and then the second match would be like Hulk Hogan and Sika or something, and it would be like the main event essentially. Then they do the other matches after that.
Yeah, absolutely.
Now, that said, I love Full Gear.
Full Gear was a very good show.
Yeah, I know. I thought it was great. It had the ending, like, it should have had. Like, we all wanted Hangman to win, and he did. And like, some people were like, "Whoa, it was a little predictable." I'm like, and I'll say what Al Snow said to us, 12 years ago. He's like, "There's a difference between expecting something and wanting something." People wanted Hangman to win. They got it, and that's okay. And you don't need to have swerves every time. Like, like, you don't need to do like, oh, we should have Kenny win because they're thinking Hangman's going to win. I'm like, I mean, okay, but maybe you just
That's
have him
very
win.
Russo thinking.
Yeah, maybe you do it like once in a while. And when I say once in a while, I mean like once in 5 years, like to really like get a shock value. But like, there's only so many bullets in that gun. I mean, yeah, Russo's a great example. We all talk about it, but it's like everything in moderation, right? And like
Mhm.
you really have to moderate yourself as a pro wrestling booker. Like, you cannot hotshot this shit. I mean, Jim Cornette talks about it all the time. I mean, WCW burned through like so many goddamn matches, or didn't even get to them in that era. WWE, like, I think they kind of burned through them. I don't even know what like marquee matches they have left. Like, AW has a ton, like Hangman Punk, Hangman Bryan, um, Adam Cole, Kenny Omega, like, Punk and MJF. And like, I can just keep going. Moxley Punk, I don't know. Like, you can go forever because they don't like do them all the time. They only have 4 pay-per-views and they space them out pretty decently on TV shows. So like, it's important not to overdo that or anything. But anyway, back to Winter is Coming, which we were talking about, and then we got sidetracked. So they haven't announced a ton for this, and I know it's not like a total. It's not like an actual pay-per-view, but like right now we have Hangman and Danielson. Now I will admit that is a very big match. I will say it's on the level, maybe a little bit above, but definitely on the level of Kenny and Moxley from last year. We've got Britt against Riho, and we've got the Dynamite Diamond Ring match. So whoever wins the Battle Royal takes on MJF. So it's, I'm sorry, whoever the last 2 people in the Battle Royal. So you kind of got to assume MJF's in that match.
At least I'm thinking I would say keep having him win, but now that he's feuding with Punk, how is that going to play into this match?
Yeah,
so that'll be the real intrigue there.
Yeah, and I think that's where Punk's going to go. I think this show is interesting because they are really loading it up as much as they I mean, there's only 3 matches, but those 3 matches are like kind of loaded. Like, Bryan Danielson getting a title match on free TV is a big deal. And I think AEW has been we're gonna talk business right now, guys. We're gonna get a little bit in the weeds here, as Eric Bischoff might say. They've been hit hard with this West Coast change because TNT has the hockey games that they have to put on live. So until TBS happens, like they're on live on the West Coast as opposed to delayed at 8 p.m. So that like hits them. I think the estimation is around 10 to 15%. So the numbers have not been what they were last year around this time, around Winter's Coming last year, or what they were doing in the early fall. So they really, I think, need to have a big show for this heading into, especially as they head into the TBS era. And I think they're doing that with Bryan Danielson and Hangman. I think, Britt's their biggest star by far in the women's division, and they've like invested a lot in her. And believe it or not, regardless of how I feel for Riho, I'm not a big fan. Riho, especially in those early Dynamite shows, huge numbers, especially with younger women. So I think they're trying to capture some of that again. And because Dynamite's female audience has slipped over the past year, and they haven't really recovered it. If their female audience was where it was like in early 2020, they would be like, I don't want to say killing Raw, but they'd be like decently ahead of Raw in the demo. Because their male audience is strong. It's been strong, but they've struggled to get that female audience back. So it's interesting to see what they're doing and to see what else they'll add to this show. As I guess tomorrow is the last show before this one comes up.
Yeah, and that's going to be interesting to see what the show's going to look like moving to TBS. They've already developed their own TBS championship. We'll know who that champion is once the tournament concludes. It's the secondary women's title. And I don't know, is the move to TBS, do you think the show will look the same and will be presented the same, or will they make any cosmetic changes?
They might do like a branding refresh. They generally have when they've I mean, even without like big moves like that, you know, they had one look early on, and they've changed up like match graphics and stuff. So yeah, they may have a new look for it. I would if I was doing it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And it's interesting, I guess, with the TNT championship, that'll be like the Rampage exclusive title, and the TBS championship will be like the Dynamite exclusive title.
Yeah, it's interesting.
Yeah.
I worry about them like, hey, we're gonna name these after the two channels we're on. I'm like, what if you want to negotiate? I mean, you can always rename the titles. I get that, but what if you want to negotiate with somebody else? So like, you guys aren't leaving. It's you've got titles named after us. I think it's interesting that Winter is Coming is going to be in Garland, Texas again, because they've done like three. This will be like their third event. Like they were there in 2019, and then they were there this summer. So it's like, I don't know. I feel like, listen, I'm on the East Coast. I'm in New York. Patrick's in Baltimore, but like, fucking do a West Coast thing, man. Those fans are really wanting to see a show, and I feel like, except for the original Double or Nothing, they've gotten nothing from AEW.
Yeah.
Like, they mostly stay Eastern Seaboard and like Texas, and like, yeah, they do those Indiana shows and stuff, but like, they don't they stick to the coast around a little bit, and by like, I'm East Coast and Gulf, I mean.
Yeah, I wonder if the pandemic has anything to do with that. Like,
yeah, doing a lot of Florida and Texas shows.
Yeah, or if there's like a lot of there's more restrictions in some areas than others. I don't know what the west of the country is like, but that might be playing into their decisions as well. They might want to play in Garland, Texas, because they know they can go there, and it's like kind of an easy one.
Yeah, especially when they're booking these things. Delta is probably raging, or not raging, but like cases are on the rise. They're like, whoa, we don't want them to cancel things, so let's hang out, let's hang out in Florida and Texas, where we know we're not going to have any issues. So it is interesting.
Absolutely.
Yeah, so I don't know, we've been off the air for a while.
Yeah. How was your Thanksgiving?
It was good. Actually, no, I'm sorry. It was terrible. My daughter vomited all over my wife after she spent like the entire morning getting like her hair blow dried and her makeup done and stuff. And we were going to go see family. And then my daughter like basically shot what amounted to what looked like egg yolk all over her. So we stayed home for Thanksgiving because she was too sick to go anywhere. But so it was kind of shitty. But also, let me give you a little hot take on the parades.
Okay.
So parades, mostly for kids, right? Watching them, so they like the Thanksgiving parade and stuff. Fucking NBC just has 900 like Broadway performances on there. No, I'm not attacking Broadway. I love Broadway. I love seeing Broadway shows. I love musicals. But like, it was like an hour and a half into the thing before we saw the first float. They're showing Savannah Guthrie 90% of the time, and these fucking dancers. And I'm like, dude, where are the fucking giant floats of the cartoon characters so my kid can see these? It was not neither NBC nor CBS's coverage of that parade was very impressive to me.
Yeah, it's not Thanksgiving until I see Underdog and Bugs Bunny or whoever else. I don't know. I haven't watched the Thanksgiving.
You're fucking old, Patrick.
I literally haven't watched him since I was a kid, but
not until I see my underdog does this show end.
The only one I remember watching was the year they had like a He-Man and She-Ra float, and because I was a He-Man and She-Ra dork, so I remember that pretty vividly. But other than that,
like, you were a kid when that happened. Like, it didn't.
Oh, I was really young. This was like 88. So yeah.
It's always a cool validation as a kid when you see like your like favorite like character like as a float. It's like, oh yeah, they've arrived, like when you were a kid and you're like, oh, the turtles are here. Yeah.
Oh yeah.
It was like mainstream acceptance.
They had a concert.
Yeah. Oh man, I went to that concert. Did you?
Oh, really? I did not. I had the video of the making of the concert as a kid, and I thought it was the weirdest thing I'd ever seen. It's like, wait, they play guitar? That's cool.
Yeah. No, it was fucking awesome. And they so I still have the program for it. It's this giant book. It's great. We may have seen it in like the Nassau Coliseum. I don't know, but it was like Shredder's in it and stuff. And man, let me tell you, like 5 or 6 year old me, I can't remember how old I was, but I got nervous because we saw that show and I'm like, oh, the turtles are actually fucking here. And it's weird because when you're like a kid and it's like, I'm aware it's a TV show, it's not real and stuff, but like you're also seeing things in front of you. So it's this odd, it's like it can be like with people with wrestling, right? It's difficult to tell where the illusion begins and stuff. And
Right.
then and so there's a point where Shredder's like, he's got like a weapon or something, I can't remember what it is, but he's like, I'm gonna use it on all these people. And I was like, oh, and in my head, like in the kid version of this, I'm saying, oh fuck, he's gonna kill us all, like, and I got like nervous with that. It was like the turtles are here, but oh shit, so is Shredder. And yeah, no, that was just my memory of that, which is I think probably why people I like them too, but it's probably why people like haunted houses. It's like you get this like tangible experience that you may not get like watching the turtles at home or watching a horror movie at home.
Yeah, absolutely. And I had a similar experience to you when my family took me to, I believe it was Universal Studios. And there was the movie ride, and
Oh no, that's Disney Hollywood Studios.
that's Disney Hollywood Studios. Okay,
Yes.
so we get on there, and the guy like acts like he shoots the hostess
Oh
and
yes.
takes
So
over the ride. And
yeah,
I was terrified as a child. I thought we were witnessing a crime take place right in front of us. Oh my God, I was so freaked out.
were you happy when he is killed grabbing the idol in the temple?
Yes, I was. When she came back, I felt a lot better. Yes.
Did you get the gangster?
I for some reason I remembered being a cowboy, but I was
Okay,
really
yeah,
young.
yeah. No, so there is a cowboy one. That's
Okay.
that's the B ride. Basically the way the trams are, where they like stop at like different points to see different things. And because of how long the train is, like if they have enough people and enough trams going, one will stop in the gangster thing and they'll get a gangster come out to take over the ride, and the other will stop at the Wild West one. You'll get a cowboy,
Okay.
which I for years had never seen the cowboy one, and in 2011 I was like, we got to get on the B ride, and like because I had found out about it because like Wikipedia and everything,
Mhm.
and we went on and we're like, can you make sure we get on this one? They're like, yeah, yeah, just hold off after this one. We're like, yeah, we finally got to see it, and of course it's the same exact show but with the cowboy actor, but it's like it was yeah that was a great ride, which is unfortunately no longer there.
Oh man, that's because that was when I think back of all the rides I went on as a kid, that's the one that I would want to go back on just to see if it like lives up to how horrified I was as a child watching all this go
Yeah.
down.
So if you're a movie fan, it still did hold up. Like I mean, I haven't gone on it in like 5 or 6 years because they took it down in 2017. It's
Mhm.
now Mickey and Minnie's Runaway Railway, which I
Mm.
have not been on. But yeah, no, it's I've always that ride was just like the sets were so cool and everything. But
Yeah, the things I remember most when you're going through all the movie sets, like Alien coming out from
Alien,
the
yeah.
ceiling and The Wizard of Oz, I remember that looking very vivid and pretty.
Yeah, and it's big. It's like a big room.
Mhm.
Alien, it's so okay, so two things. One, you can have you can have dinner in where the alien is, like in the Great Movie Ride. They do so people listening to this may know this, they may not know this, but in any like institution, whether you have like a museum in your town or city or wherever, or in some cases theme parks, you can like pretty much fucking rent out anything after hours and do a thing. So Disney has a thing for like corporate events or like big banquets and stuff. You can eat in some of the rides. Like you used to be able to eat in like after it's closed, they'll like set up tables on the floor and stuff. And like one of them was the Great Movie Ride. You could do it on Ellen's Energy Adventure in like the dinosaur thing.
I
Um,
remember doing the dinosaur one too.
yeah, like in the big area where you go through that, that's where they set up the tables. There's like a I can't remember where it is, but if you like Google like corporate Disney events in the park or something, you'll probably find it, and they'll show you like the settings you can book. But so I always thought that would be a fun place to do like an event or have dinner. But the second thing is that alien, that xenomorph used to come down way closer than it did in recent years. Like in the early 90s, late 80s, early 90s, when that park opened, it would come down super fucking close. But kids, probably me as well, were just terrified by it because it's like it really is frightening and terrifying. And so they moved it back. So so they had less scared children.
Yeah, I remember most when the ride was over, my dad, who went on it with us, he was like, I made a mistake. That one was a mistake. But it's the ride I have the most memories of. So I guess getting scared isn't so bad.
Yeah. So, all right, what the fuck else are we going to talk about wrestling?
Well, one thing I did want to talk about in regards to AEW, in building up this Hangman Adam Page Bryan Danielson match, they've actually turned Danielson heel, which felt a little sudden. But I want to get your take on it. How do you feel about the heel turn?
Okay, so this is interesting because John, who's a big fan of the show, he always comments on the videos, he always messages and posts on the Facebook page and everything. He was asking about my take for this, and I gave him kind of my take, but I'll give it here as well. So I was confused initially of like, oh, why are they doing this? But then, like after seeing it, I think it was a gamble that paid off really well. So I like it. I if you were to tell me that AEW was going to get Daniel Bryan in late 2021 and they were going to have Hangman cheered over him, I would have said no fucking way. I mean, I love Hangman, but like Daniel Bryan's too respected, he's too beloved, and they've done it. And they're going to have Hangman being cheered over Daniel Bryan or Bryan Danielson, and I think that's impressive. And it gives a little more oomph to the feud because, quite honestly, AEW doesn't do this a ton. They really don't. So I'm not going to complain. But there is a tendency in non-WWE promotions to have I like you and you like me. We respect each other. Let's have a match.
Yeah.
And I feel like that's where this was headed. And I don't think that's very interesting. I think the initial plan was Hangman and Moxley. I think that was probably the initial plan. I could be wrong. Maybe they were doing this exact same thing and Bryan was going to go over or whatever. But by the way that Hangman kind of came in the ladder match and got rid of Moxley and the way the Mox was just killing people in the tournament, I think they were going to do a heel turn with him. And I think that was the plan. This, I think, is like, it was looking like if they didn't turn him, it was going to be like, Hangman, I'm here to wrestle and have a great wrestling match. The fact that Bryan's like being a dick and a psychopath about this is, to me, way more interesting. And the fact that he's like, I'm going to kill every one of these dorks that you hang out with in in each of their hometowns before I get to you, I think is great. And I think it's interesting. It's given a lot. I've really liked the feud. I think it's helped Hangman, like give him a little bit of fire. I mean, he's always had fire. Like, it's not to say that he doesn't, but it's giving him something else, and it's shown a new side for Bryan Danielson that I don't think people have seen on TV. Like, even with his like fickle Planet Champion character from a few years ago, I don't think we've seen this type of heel Daniel Bryan. I think he's a little more serious, which I like. So I think it's turned out well. I really like this feud, and I think the match is going to be way more interesting than it was going to be anyway.
Yeah, I agree. I think at first I was a little put off by how like just sudden the heel turn was.
It was very sudden, yes.
Yeah, it was extremely sudden. I wish, and again, I hadn't even considered the Moxley thing being plan A, and they just shifted to plan B, so that's probably why it turned out the way it did. But working backward and trying to like inject headcanon onto it, I wish they had like laid the seeds for it in the tournament where Daniel's like, or Danielson is like, hey, I want to face Omega because we had a tie and I want him again. And then Hangman completely screws up that plan. And that's kind of the impetus for the heel turn. I wish they had like set that up a little better, but now that we have it, it's like, look, him being this bully asshole to the members of the Dark Order who are Hangman's friends, it works really well, and it's actually given a nice solid buildup heading into Winter is Coming.
Yeah, and like you said, it makes sense for Brian to feel that way. He's like, oh, I'm coming here, I'm going to be this great wrestling champion, and he's like, and Kenny's been the best guy, and oh, Kenny lost to someone who wasn't me, and there's kind of this like annoyance there, right? That I couldn't beat this guy in 30 minutes, and Hangman, who's never been near as heralded as I've been, does it. So I think it's interesting. I think there's some self-doubt there. I think it's an interesting character. I think it's an interesting feud. And there's only 4 pay-per-views a year. So like realistically, how many there are only 4 pay-per-view main events a year, So this being on free TV it's a big match.
Yeah, and I'm interested to see where they go from here, because I'm thinking my initial thought is that Hangman wins. But what if he doesn't? And what if we get like this heel asshole Bryan Danielson character heading into 2022? It'll be interesting. But I'm banking on Hangman winning, but we'll see how it all plays out.
Yeah, so I think the biggest concern is how many people they seem to have ready to turn heel. Now that's fine if you want Hangman to just plow through these people, and maybe that's what they want. But like, to me, you've got a roster of people that are going to be heels. Like Daniel Bryan just turned heel, which I did not expect before it happened. I think CM Punk is giving every indication possible that he will eventually be turning heel. I don't think it'll be until after this MJF feud is over, but there's one right there. Like the Cody heel stuff is reaching like this fever pitch. So that's right there. And then you have other heels like Malachi Black, Andrade, Adam Cole. They are Miro. They're chock full of heels right now. They have so many heels or people about to be heel that I wonder, I'm like, on the face side, you got Hangman. I mean, maybe Kenny when he comes back, if he gets kicked out of the Elite. I don't know who else, like Christian, Jungle Boy. I don't know who else they got on the top of the card in the on the face side of the equation. Jericho, I guess, he's there. But yeah, I think they're going to be a little heel heavy because they're really gearing up for certain people to turn. And then you've got then you're just loaded on that side.
Yeah, I guess this leads into something else I've been wondering about, and it's the current situation with Cody Rhodes and how the crowds have like really turned on him in the last few months. How do you feel about that?
So it's a good question. So I personally, I'll give you my personal opinion on Cody and what I think's happened. I like Cody a lot as a person, and I like his wrestling character. I think most everything he does is great and well thought out, including, I think, what we're seeing here. The thing that's happened, and now you could easily just say it's the tattoo, and maybe it is the tattoo, because that was a big deal in Revolution, and then right before the pandemic started. But I think it's this kind of self-sustaining narrative, where they're just like, he holds people down. He's in the Cody verse, and it's this like it's taken on a life of its own. Where like, I don't know. I think there's different reasons for different people. Now, I will point out to everybody that like anyone who's comparing Cody to Triple H or John Cena is insane. Cody, number one, has never, ever main evented a pay-per-view, ever. I mean, definitely not in AEW. Maybe he did in like fucking AAA or something, or there was like a
ROH a couple of times, but
yeah, okay, that doesn't count. But in a top company, he's never really main evented a pay-per-view. So like comparing that to the people who have like the pay-per-view main event records in WWE is insane. He's never been the world champion. So once again,
there was a rule in place to where he can't be the world champion,
which was designed to mitigate what's happening now. So, and either that failed or it's working the way he wanted it to work. I don't know, because I don't know what's in his head. I don't know what's by design and what isn't. Um, there's and then there's other people I think that think his feuds aren't good. Like they didn't like the Anthony Ogogo one. They thought it was a little tone deaf, a little like 80s wrestling. Um, whatever. People didn't like the QT Marshall feud, which is funny because like it's not like QT Marshall was ever played as like this amazing threat. He was just a guy who had people underneath of him. So I never had an issue with that. So at this point, though, it's taken on a life of its own, and I don't know if he's purposefully doing the Cena thing, where he's like, the interest is sustained because people want to see him turned heel, or he's doing a slow turn by not turning. Like there's so many things at play. I don't know. And I don't know if people are going to be happy until there's a legit turn and he's acknowledged as a heel. And maybe they do that, maybe they don't. Maybe he goes back on the stipulation. I think that would be an interesting way to do it. I think then you have to kind of clear everything out, because I think Hangman's going to hold on to the belt for a little while, but I feel like MJF's the guy after that. But if Cody's the heel who goes back on his stip, he's like a Hogan 97 level heel. He's the final boss. He's the Thanos. So you kind of have to be very careful with that, because that's like your big card there. So did that answer your question at all?
Yes, it did. Because it's been a very interesting situation to see play out. Because I'm kind of with you. Like the whole idea that they're calling him like the Triple H of AEW, I think is patently ridiculous. Because I can point to MJF and Darby Allin, who have been stated as two of their pillars, the youth that they've built the company on, would not be where they are today if it wasn't for working with Cody, and that's indisputable, I feel.
And Cody put over Brody.
He put over Malachi Black, got squashed by both of them. So he works hard to make sure that the guys he works with get elevated, which is not something that Triple H was known for doing, unless your name was Batista. And Cena like tore through so many people, I lost count after a while. So it's but whether fairly or unfairly, it's a thing that's happened. So I don't know if he's kind of resisting turning heel, or if there's some kind of long-term game that he has going. If it's the latter, I think it's brilliant, and I think it could have an amazing payoff sometime in the future. And the other part of that is, quite honestly, Cody's a great heel. I've seen him do it before, and I think he could pull it off.
Yeah. I go back and I think about the amount of people Cody has elevated. Name like one person Cena elevated. I would say Daniel Bryan, and that's kind of it. I mean, you can say Roman Reigns, but like, quite frankly, Roman Reigns was at that level when he beat Cena in 2017 and at SummerSlam.
Yeah, agreed. And Roman, again, he was probably going to be put in that spot whether he worked with Cena or not. He was just kind of the anointed guy.
Yeah.
And that's just how it was. So
whereas with Cody, you can say, oh, look, Brody got over more after working with Cody. Darby did. MJF did.
And I didn't know who Darby or MJF were when I first turned on AEW. It's like, who are these guys?
Yeah.
And Cody helped give them exposure and elevated them.
Yeah. And he, like the idea that like, oh, well, he didn't lose to Anthony Ogogo, or like really? Like, I mean, he's got to beat somebody, like otherwise he then you're Ric Flair in 2004 and you're just like, oh, look, Shelton Benjamin beat him. Well, who fucking cares? Everybody beats him,
Rico holds a victory over Ric Flair.
It's true.
Clean victory. Nobody remembers this. Yeah. But you have to matter to some degree. And it's, he beat Andrade last week. And as I personally feel like Andrade is kind of a wasted experiment in AEW. And I'm not even sure why he's there, but it's like, do you really want to see him go over Cody? Really? It's like, all right.
And he did. He went over Cody.
Huh? You
were talking about Andrade, right?
Andrade, yeah.
Yeah, he went over Cody a few weeks ago.
Oh, you're right. He did. I forgot about that.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So, well, there you go.
So there you go. All right, cool. So why don't we do this? Why don't we close up shop for today? And we will try to do the Thursday after winter is coming, and we can have a chat about that.
Sounds great. And again, we're going to be redoing the question and answers, the mailbag segments. So if you want to send in your questions, send them to weekdaywarriors2020@gmail.com. That will be listed in the description below.
Awesome. All right, everybody. For myself and for my partner here, Mr. Patrick Kelly, we are
signing off.